Hi, everyone. My name's John Lord, and I would like to thank my friend Steve Bond for giving me the opportunity to participate in the Benny LaBarge celebration of life. I knew Benny when I was just a kid, 11, 12 years old, maybe younger than that, growing up in Hayward. Benny was a friend of my older brother, Richard. And so I kind of knew Benny before the glory days of Benny and the Jets, and later Johnny. And of course, Steve managed those groups. And so I was sort of in the mix as I was, Steve and I are best friends. And I kind of think that I gravitated towards Steve a little bit because he reminded me of Benny back, once I got to high school and started making my rock and roll friends and whatnot. So, I want to, before I get into that, offer my sincere condolences, of course, to the LaBarge family, Denise, and I know this is a hard time for you, so hopefully it's okay to share a couple of these stories and make you think fondly of Benny when he was a young guy. I want to say this first story, it's probably about 1973. I think I'm around 11. My sister Jeanette had just got her license, and we're driving around Hayward, and she had a green Pontiac Firebird that overheated every other, half a block or whatever. And we're constantly putting water in the radiator of that thing and stuff. And so one day we're there at the house, and our house was basically a half a block down from Weeks Park. I mean, we were so close to Weeks Park, you could literally hear when they would do the softball games, you could hear, the announcers announcing the players and stuff. We were that close to Weeks Park, so we just really, used to always go there and stuff. And so one day though, we're there at the house, and I don't know, here comes Benny around the corner to our house there on Westwood. We're on the east side of Patrick, and Benny gets to talking. Maybe he was looking for my brother or something, I don't know. And he articulates, well, I need a ride back to my house. And my sister says, well, yeah, okay, I can give you a ride. And, no, let me drive. I want to drive. I can drive. And, my sister was told, as we all were with our cars when we were kids, do not let anyone else drive your car, right? And my sister followed all the rules. She was very hard to convince otherwise. But somehow Benny came across a young guy, with this confidence that he could drive. Let him drive. He'll do a good job. He can drive, So he convinced really both of us, because even though I was, the younger brother, I think I always, had that ability to, no, we can't, don't do this, But apparently I didn't protest at all, And so for some reason I went too. We all hopped into this, fire trap green Pontiac Firebird. It's 1968, thing had overheated 52 times that year already. So we all jumped in there, and what was cool about it was, you'd think that Benny wouldn't, being such a brash young guy, that he was going to try to show off, but he was so respectful in how he made sure that, he drove safely and stuff. Of course, he was probably 13, 14. I mean, it was pretty clear he didn't know how to drive, because I remember observing and looking at his, feet, and he was using one foot for the brake and one foot for the gas. So he was probably trying to still figure it out, but he was just, he was cool. He just drove carefully. And I want to say, and I'm sure the LaBarge family could correct me, I want to say they were on the west side of Patrick back there, some homes back there. And so it was a nice neighborhood, back in the day. Those houses were probably built in the, late 50s, mid-late 50s. And it was a nice neighborhood back then. And so, he just drove home, and that was it with that. So Then, the years went by, a couple, 3 years. We moved away from there. We moved up into the Hayward Hills. My dad started making a little better money, so we got a nicer house and stuff. And by then, I reckon Benny must have been able to drive because he's, was hanging around there, and I doubt he was walking up the hill. So he would start hanging around the newer place, and that house was, it was a nice house, had a nice view, and my dad built a pool in the backyard, and so one time Benny and my brother insisted that I, come out there and be the photographer for pictures that they were taking while they were kind of kicking back by the pool, with the view in the back, posing for album covers and this kind of stuff. And so, that was kind of funny. And then one time my mom had set up an easel in the kitchen, and she was trying to dabble in painting. She always liked to paint, and so, an artistic painting and stuff. So Benny comes into the kitchen and he looks at this painting, and my mom was for the first time trying a, larger painting. It's maybe a, 2x4 size, canvas that she was trying to paint on. She's trying to paint a ship, so she was kind of a little bit out on a limb of stuff that she had done before. And Benny comes in and says, "Man, that's great, Miss Lord. That's a good picture. The only thing you need are some cloudy skies, and the ship needs tattered sails," he told her. And, I could see that my mom was not an easy person to, impress with stuff like that. So my mom kind of looked down like, "No, but I could, come on, kid," but I could tell that, she liked what he was saying. And so it was just kind of cool that he took that time to kind of stop and, reach out to the do you know side of his artist soul and kind of encourage my mom as she was trying to figure out how to do that painting at the time. But, these stories, they're not spectacular or anything, but I think they, speak to the idea that, Benny was a good boy from Hayward, and he was somebody that you could trust, if it was important, right? When he was driving my sister's car, he respected that, that she trusted him. So, he respected that. He was someone that, could, had a lot of enthusiasm and confidence, I don't think he knew how to drive, but he was sure he could get us over there, and then, just the fact that he took the time and stopped to encourage others, And so that's kind of the things I remember about Benny. I know that he went on to, be a Hayward rock and roll icon, and I stood in the audience many times at Weeks Park and some of the other venues and, watched him play and stuff. But those are kind of the more personal times that I remember. So hopefully it was okay to share those stories. And again, my condolences. I know you're going to miss Benny right now. Just kind of maybe take some of those things that he brought and maybe pass them on. Thanks for the time, guys. Do you know?